Okay, so over here I have the new Lenovo Legion Go 2. Over here I have an HX370 OneX player. Actually, that's the Lunar Lake one. That's the HX370 Lunar Lake. These have the same iGPU, an 890M and an 890M. This is the HX370 variant of the CPU, which has more cores. This is the Z2 Extreme. They're based on the same architecture, same iGPUs, but the CPU is a little bit different. There's actually a few lower cores in here. They cut out a couple of the big and small cores. Otherwise, they're very similar. Okay, so let's go here. We're on low with medium scaling, balanced. We can throw on more scaling if need be, but I think we're going to be pretty much fine here. As long as the 35 is a pretty decent average for this game, and as long as our lows stay up, then I'll be fine, to be honest. Which they are. I'm pretty much rock solid, to be honest. So let's go here before we get into too much chaos. We'll try some performance modes here on this game here. So we'll come in here. Right now we're at 35. And performance is about 37-ish. Okay, bring that down. Actually, let's go with 30 to start here. Okay, now that's 30. Now the system runs very quiet on 30. It might be exaggerated by the microphone. When it's on 37, you can definitely hear the system running. When you go down to 30, it's a big drop in noise. It goes from, definitely you can hear the fan to pretty quiet. It may be exaggerated by the mic based on the location of the mic, but you can see that we didn't lose any performance, but it's much quieter. Okay, so here's the same. It's balanced FSR, 30 watts here, right? Okay, and in this first clip, we can see here on the left Legion Go 2, on the right OneX player, same iGPU, slightly different systems. We're both at 30 watts here, and performance is basically the same within margin of error. Below than that, it's hard to kind of get those nailed down, but generally speaking, same performance at 30 watts. We'll go down one more. $25. I'm just going to do that at intervals. 25. You can see that there. No performance drop. Still no performance drop. Now, based on my testing in my review, when you're doing very CPU-heavy games, such as Cyberpunk, you do notice when you start to drop from 30 and you go down to 25, for example, you do start to see a performance drop. It's not like massive, but you'll notice a little bit of performance drop. That's because the CPU and the GPU are both taking those watts. They're being hit, both of them. In games where, the CPU is lighter, this is kind of a mixed case, or when you get to games where the CPU is not being taxed that much because it's really slamming the GPU, in those cases, you can actually lower the watts even more and still get excellent performance because the GPU just doesn't need as many watts as you might think. Performance is unchanged at 25. No difference. Here we are at 25 watts. Once again, essentially the same performance here. The lows again just kind of flip over, but generally speaking at 25 watts, we're looking at the same performance between the two systems once again. You should start to see a bit of a drop here. It's still running just fine. You can see the watts there, unchanged. 20. Watts, same story, where we're getting roughly the same performance between the two of them. Not really a big difference between either of them. Let's go down. Now we're dropping, but we're still at 30. 15 starts to really drop down. Here at 15 watts, similar story. Looks like the Legion Go is pulling ahead slightly here. Could be due to that fact that it just has less cores sucking up watts. So here we're starting to see a little bit of a bump for the Legion Go, where the OneX player's falling behind just a touch. So once you get down to those lower watts, that's where things start to become a little bit more interesting for the Legion Go 2. So we had a scenario here where we were running at essentially full performance under 20 watts. Not 30, not 37, 20 watts. Go down again. Now we should really start to choke over here. Now, I've been playing games like Final Fantasy Tactics, Village Chronicles, and I've been running it at 7 watts, 7 or 8 watts, because it just doesn't need a choke. We are all the way down at 10 watts, and once again, the Legion Go is slightly ahead. They're both fairly unplayable at this level here, but 17 versus 14. However, if you play a less demanding game, you would still see good performance on both of them. But again, the Legion Go 2 would pull ahead. So here, where we're getting those slightly lower cores, slightly fewer cores, we're seeing better performance at lower watts. Okay, so that's actually game. Just go like that. Now I always do show the device externally. The reason being, I've actually had people be like, I don't get the same performance as you. I mean, I can't do anything about that. I just show the device, I show the settings. So here we are. We'll just do it at max. Now that we know it's not gonna make a big difference, we go lower or higher. We'll just put it like this, just for whatever purpose here. I'll just quickly show the settings again. So we'll come in here. This is basically in response to that one person who was like, oh, you're lying. And it's like, bro, I show my settings here. What do you want me to do? Okay, so we'll go like that here, 1200p. All that there, FSR balanced. Low. Let's do it. Give it a little music. I've been benchmarking this on a freaking laptop so much that I've been getting used to the laptop controls, mouse and keyboard. I do not like mouse and keyboard controls in our FPS, just so you know. I'm like that weird dude. So it's going to take me a little while to get back to the controller again. Drop down there during that chaotic scene. Again, we're just on balanced FSR. We can change it and see if we need to change it. As long as we get 30, I'm happy here. With good lows. AKA, I don't want to see those lows go down from 25, which is actually really good, to be honest, for an IGP. I will throw on performance scaling regardless, just to see. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. So we got essentially 30 through there with good lows. Very good. Let's just try it. We'll just try it for a sec, just because I'm curious. If scaling does matter in this game, but it's not like some games scaling makes a huge difference. Some games settings make a huge difference. Here, when you turn on the scaling, it's not going to be like 50 times as much. It is actually jumping up quite a bit though. See, with performance scaling, now we're at 36. Yeah, that's 37, 38. I mean, it is making a big difference. And on this size of screen, I mean, you can't really tell. Like, it might be a little softer unless you're pixel hunting. That's not bad. I'm going to try one more thing and then we'll just play for a minute. I will try XeSS because generally speaking, XeSS looks better, but it may not perform quite as well. So we'll go like that. We'll go XeSS performance. Okay, like that. Oh, it's performing even better. Okay, hell yeah. Okay, XeSS looks better than FSR and it's performing better. All right, boys and ghouls. We got ourselves a game here now. So XeSS is where it's at. Not every case. Some games, FSR seems to work better. Some games XeSS, but generally speaking, XeSS looks better than FSR. So if you can get away with it, and the performance is okay, how do you run again? Okay, jeez, been so used to mouse and keyboard. How do I punch again? This one? Yeah, that's right. And how do I use my, yeah, there it is. Got it. Anyways, it's going to run really well. Yeah, just use XeSS. Play with the settings. Throw them on low. I mean, you don't need higher settings. It's fine. Game looks good regardless, not even on low. But use XeSS, not FSR. It looks better, and it runs better, apparently. So, fantastic. Let's go to the next game. This is really, really actually quite good. Okay, so now we're at the exact same settings, exact same place. XeSS performance. and the performance is essentially exactly the same. Okay, so a little bit more slowdown, but overall the average is very, very similar. The average is very, very similar here, a little bit more slowdown, at least in this specific spot here. Yeah, it's running okay. Definitely not as fast, but it's running okay. The wattages here are not correct, by the way. It's just having a hard time reading it. See here, this doesn't make any difference here at all. Right, the watts don't make any difference here. They do actually affect the system, they just don't show up. Afterburner is just messed up, I've realized. It's much quieter here when you do this. Like, I can tell that it's working because when you move this, it gets quieter, and then when you get down too low, it does start to choke the performance. So we're still at 35 or so, even at 15. Little bit of a drop there at 15. If we go back up to 20, it's kind of similar, I guess, where you get most of the performance at a certain level, right? Kind of the same idea, where around 20 you start to choke in these games. 15, you can do it, but it does start to drop off a little bit. This thing seems to be a little bit more efficient at the lower levels in terms of the ratio, but it does go down to a level here where I'd consider it not running great. But 20 seems to be a pretty good sweet spot here. MSI Afterburner is just having a really hard time reading the thing. And here's all three of them side by side. It's a little tough to capture all of them, be the exact same scenario, but we can definitely see that they're all performing very well here. This is at the max watt mode. Interestingly, you can see the OneX player on the far right. The Intel one just generally uses significantly lower watts on that iGPU. It's just a more efficient chip, generally speaking, but regardless at full watts on all three systems. We're looking at somewhat similar performance where the Legion Go 2 and the OneX player with the AMD variant are just slightly ahead. Intel is a little bit behind, but still respectable here, especially for a lower watt. Now again, that isn't necessarily saying that one chip is better than the other. This is just one singular game. I'm going to have to do a lot more testing, and I've been doing it, where some games Intel is favored, some games AMD is favored, but in this case here, we're getting similar performance across the board, but with an edge on the AMD systems at full watts.